Well, Raheem Kassam is a close advisor to Steve Bannon and the UK editor of his Breitbart news organisation. He joins us now live from Washington. Thank you very much for joining us, Raheem Kassam. So what do you make of all of those claims?
Well, I think in the first page of Michael Wolff's new book, he actually spells out how some of the conversations are more like aggregations of multiple conversations rather than verbatim quotes. So I suspect on some of those issues, that's what we'll find emerging here. I've no doubt that some of it, however, is true. It's very hard to spend so long in the White House and around the campaigns, such as this last one that we've seen here in the United States, and not actually gain quite a lot of inside information. Info flows very freely in the corridors and in the offices, and so Michael Wolff would have had a prime position to hear and record any of that. There's another thing about all of this which strikes me as interesting as well, which is that when the White House say, when they speak with the urgency of saying that they want to delay this book's launch and they're challenging things in the book, I think they will need to outline what those things are pretty quickly. Otherwise, some people, and I'm already hearing this out there, might suspect that they are protesting a little bit too much.
That's very interesting you say that, because laying aside what is aggregated and what is a verbatim quote, the result of this publication is to have two men that you support and you admire, Donald Trump and Steve Bannon, at loggerheads with each other. That must cause you some some dismay.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I've seen it all before, quite frankly. I mean, I used to work for Nigel Farage. Yeah, I used to, working for Nigel Farage in UKIP. There are always fights at the top. You know, these big sort of alpha male gorilla type men beating their chests at one another.
But this is surely spectacular.
I think it's a spectacle, and I think it's a spectacle because there's a lot of people out there that want to make it a spectacle. I think when you look at the Drudge Report website here in the United States and you look at the sort of breathless coverage of this in the media, look, people enjoy this. They love the tittle-tattle. Fair enough, fair play to them if that's what they want to do. Let's not forget, there is an Iranian revolution going on. There is a little rocket man with a little nuclear button out there. There are bigger issues in the world, so I'm not too perturbed by it.
But there is substance, apart from what you describe as the tittle-tattle, to what we've heard. Suggestions that Donald Trump was befuddled by his election win, that he didn't think he was going to win. In another passage, the fact that Jared Kushner, his advisor and son-in-law, was unclear what the president's political aims were. I mean, do you not worry that that is going to diminish Donald Trump's standing amongst his own supporters?
Well, I hope it doesn't. I think his supporter base is pretty firm. You know, at Breitbart News, we host 6 hours of live radio a day, and it's a call-in show. And 99% of people that have called in over the last 24 hours are still both staunchly supportive of Breitbart Steve Bannon and supportive of Trump and his political agenda. Look, Jared, I've always said, and I've never hidden it, and I've never met the guy. I've got no personal beef with him. I've always said I don't think he particularly knows where why this president was elected, why the people of the United States elected him, and that's okay, that's fine. He's got his personal viewpoints and political philosophies. He's perfectly welcome to those. It's not a bone of contention as far as I can see. But when you ask the question, was the president befuddled? Well, I actually went up to the president's penthouse on President-elect's penthouse on November the 10th after the election last year, and he was very candid about being surprised by the victory. I don't know if he was upset about it, but I mean, imagine somebody turned up to you and said, right, you're now president of the United States. I believe in England we might go, oh crumbs.
Yes, but I mean, he had spent many months campaigning to be so. And
by the way, over those months, just to jump in there, over those months had been told by a series of advisors and people around him that he didn't have a chance. There was one person that kept telling him he was going to win, and that was Steve Bannon.
Okay. The other possibly very serious allegation involves Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., meeting a group of Russians during the campaign, something that Steve Bannon describes as treasonous. Did Steve Bannon talk to you about this?
I haven't spoken to him about that. I'll be perfectly honest with you. You know, we've done some radio together, but really getting on with the business of running a news website. I think it's this: when you look at Michael Wolff's book, and I'm sure many people are. I think it's #1 on Amazon or whatever at the moment. When you look at the book, you'll see on the front page that it says, in the inside front page, it says that some of these conversations are verbatim, some are aggregation. I guess we're going to have to find out what exactly was the context of that conversation.
Oh, this does look like a quote from the book. This does look like a quote.
No, fine. But what's the context? What was the question being asked of Steve Bannon to elicit that response? Was it, hey, if these things were discussed at that meeting, would that make it treasonous? If they spent X amount of time in there, would that make it treasonous? You know, I want to know what the full context was before I make a judgment call over this. I think everybody appreciates now that it was probably a silly thing to do to have these Moscow representatives in the Trump campaign office, even if it was a 20-minute meeting, even if they only talked about the color of the curtains. It was probably a silly thing to do. But treasonous, I guess we'll have to wait and see what the context was, what the question was asked by Michael Wolff to Steve Bannon to elicit that response. I think we'll find out, and I think it'll be very interesting.
It will certainly be interesting. Rahim Kassam, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.